Bill Collins. He didn't talk to me about the war until he was in his 80s. And then I used to visit him and he told me more and more. He was only 19. He was the youngest person in the regiment to be sent to France, and he was in the Royal Engineers. They were going to dig and build bridges and things like that. They went through France and they were sent to Belgium where the Germans were attacking. He says it was no contest and they were all told to withdraw. And he had the most awful journey back through France to go to Dunkirk, where they were told that they were going to disembark. And the things he saw on his way through France, well, they were awful. The civilians and the soldiers and everybody had just abandoned everything and they were just all heading towards the coast. When they got there, we all know it was dreadful on the beaches. But my dad and his friend, they got a boat that was a flat canvas boat for maintenance that didn't even have a stern or a bow, and they rowed people out to the small crafts all through the day until the night time, when eventually a big boat called to them when they were in the water and hauled them up onto the boat and took them back to England, which was amazing. And then after that, he got trained up to build even more complicated bridges, and then a few years later sent back to Normandy to the D-Day landings, where we know that thankfully we won the war. The thing was that he must have seen such awful, awful things, and his friend Den Little was a farmer, and when they were coming through France, the farmers had abandoned their cows and they were all mooing and making terrible, terrible noises. They were so distressed, and Den couldn't sleep, so he would get up and he would try and milk the cows that were near them to try and give them some sort of relief. And all right, only a cow, but it just makes you think of how the whole situation was so awful. And the thing is, my dad was so lucky to come back to us, and I wouldn't be here if he hadn't, but he always worried. He had what we call, I think, survivor's guilt. You know, why me? Why did I get back? The worst thing that happened to him was a bump on the head from a shelf that fell off the wall. And he'd seen such awful things, and yet he'd come back and he was fit and well and had the rest of his life. And he always remembered his comrades at Remembrance Sunday, and the camaraderie that he felt was amazing. And I only wish that they'd had all the social media and the ways of keeping in touch with their friends in the way that we had, because I think he lost contact with most of the people he went through the war with. But he never forgot the people, the troops that kept the Germans off while he was ferrying people out to the boats at Dunkirk, because they were the ones that were dying or were going into prison camps. And so, yes, my dad was a very brave, special man.